Okay, this is a breakdown of the Stage 1 Food and Hospitality Investigation, the Scores on Doors task. So, the first thing that you need to do is understand that your task is divided into three parts. You've got an introduction, a middle, and a conclusion. In the introduction, what you need to cover for me is your topic, so what it is that you're going to cover. You give me a little bit of background information. Think of the introduction like being a roadmap to your reader. It tells them where it is that you're heading with what you're going to be writing. You need to tell me in that section what the question you are addressing is, and it needs to be explicit. I always say to students it's best if it is in quotation marks and it is bold, so state it as a question. The question that I will be answering is, and write it down obviously. You also break down the guts of the question into its focus or its key areas. By that I mean you take the big question and you work out what aspects to it need to be answered in order to be able to resolve the question itself. I have given you an example of this on the next slide. So, the question that you were provided with for this task is, should scores on doors be implemented in South Australia? Now there's a couple of things here that need to be addressed. We're going to need to let people know what scores on doors is. We're talking about it being implemented in South Australia, so we need to know a bit about what the situation is in South Australia. And the question is should. So they're going to form our key focuses or our focus questions or key areas, whatever you want to call them. But the way that we break it down is something like this. Our first paragraph in the guts of the report is going to address what is scores on doors. You're going to provide me with some background information about things like how it works, how successful it is it accepted by industry, who runs it, etc. So scores on doors we know runs in New South Wales. I would be expecting to come across some information about how it's run, who's responsible for it, what hospitality businesses and customers and clientele think about scores on doors. So that's the background information, and it makes sense to provide that first. The next aspect to the question is implemented in South Australia. So in the second section, or within this task, because it's only 1,000 words, in that next paragraph, what I want to know is what's the current situation in South Australia. So what currently happens with regards to food and hygiene regulations for businesses, and how do customers find out about the quality of a business's hygiene programs? How would scores on doors impact upon this? So that's the second key focus area that you can get out of this particular question. The third one, and this is the should, this is the, if you like, the key to the answer to the question. So you need to present information that either supports or doesn't support the Scores on Doors program. And this is where you do things like you talk to businesses, you survey customers, you look at the industry bodies, the governments and the councils that are responsible for implementing or would be implementing and running a Scores on Doors type program in South Australia. Is there support amongst the customers? Is there support amongst businesses? Do they think it would be to their advantage? So this is where you're going to provide your primary research. This is all going to be based on your secondary research, so from internet, from articles, from websites, etc. But this is going to be mainly from talking to people and you being the researcher. So that's your big question. That's how you break your question down. This is the guts of the report. With your final section, the conclusion, this is where you sum up the information that you've presented, and you've got to provide a resolution or an answer to your question. You must reference your work. Remember that you can use Word to create your referencing for you, and there's a YouTube video for that if you'd like a quick refresher. How to split it up. Work on approximately 10% of your word count for your introduction. You've got 1,000 words for this piece, so we're looking at about 100 words for the intro. If you were doing a 2,000 word piece, you'd be looking at around 200 words for your introduction. For the middle of the report, around 80% of your word count. So you've got around 800 words, which means around 250 to 300 words per topic or per paragraph, breaking it down into those three sub-questions that I spoke about earlier. The conclusion, approximately 10%, but you may find that you need more words for your conclusion for topics that require considerable justification of your answer. Or if you're doing, something like a scientific experiment, you might find that you need more than 100 or more than a 10% for that one as well. Okay, hope that helps. Good luck.